I should have known that this was going to happen eventually. Not only that, but so close to yet another DreamWorks release. Guess that's my fault for not realizing that all these releases were so close together. But before we have to torture ourselves with the horrendous piece of garbage that you're all more than likely waiting for me to talk about, let's talk about the original first and why you need to watch it if you haven't already. What's up? What's happening? What's going on? Welcome back to Animation. This is Anything and Everything Animation. And welcome to my review of the 2010 DreamWorks animated superhero movie, MegaMind. This movie came out the same year as Despicable Me, and yet this is the one that ended up not getting the big praise from critics or anything like that, while Despicable Me was the one that became a giant conglomerate franchise. Sorry, a little snack. So, after all these years, thankfully, the movie has been reevaluated since then, and it has become a very highly praised movie that many people consider ahead of its time, and apparently people just didn't quite get when it first came out. However, I was not one of those stupid people. I was someone that loved this movie when I was a kid, and I still love it now. Sure, this is the first time I've seen it in a few years, but watching it now, it's still as funny, charming, sharp, clever, and just enjoyable animated films that I have ever seen, especially considering the original animation ones. So, yeah. I don't think this is about on the level of The Incredibles, no, but it is pretty damn close. I have a pretty long written review for this one. I tried to go into a bit of detail, and don't worry, there's no spoilers. But seriously, go watch this movie if you haven't already. Just gonna say that right up front. Okay, so here's my review of MegaMind. I hope you guys enjoy. Well, I unfortunately had to review the horrible excuse of a sequel, so why not revisit the original to at least have some kind of fun before I lose my sanity? Even as a kid, I really enjoyed this one, and now watching it all these years later, it's still one of my all-time favorites of DreamWorks animation, and pardon the pun, a criminally underrated gem in mainstream animated films. When supervillain MegaMind, voiced by Will Ferrell in one of his best roles, finally accomplishes his lifelong goal of defeating his superhero nemesis Metro Man, voiced by Brad Pitt, he finds himself in an existential crisis that even his genius intellect couldn't predict, as he sets out on a quest to rediscover his life's true purpose. With Metro Man dead, and a new even greater threat on the horizon of his own creation, it's up to MegaMind, his one true lifelong friend Minion, voiced by David Cross, and the damsel in distress reporter Roxanne Ritchie, voiced by Tina Fey, to save the city from ultimate destruction. So, that's the basic premise. It's pretty much a parody of superhero movies, and comic books in general. Firstly, the concept itself is pure genius, taking all the well-known cliches and stereotypes of comic book movies and flipping it entirely on its head. And the execution of said concept was excellent. And it was done in a way that it was self-parody without coming off as forced or offensive. Secondly, there's the razor-sharp writing that's self-aware of its tone, for the most part, and just has an absolute ball with it. From the great banter reminiscent of The Incredibles and old-school comic books, specifically between MegaMind and Metro Man, there's a lot of great dialogue between those two. The self-parody dialogue that's also emotional and existential at the same time, and very powerful at the exact right moments that it needs to be. And one of the film's overall greatest strengths, its wickedly funny jokes that constantly land and aren't just low-hanging fruit like most of these kind of movies. Instead, they're multi-layered and just as clever as the dialogue. Like, this is probably DreamWorks' funniest movie. I have seen pretty much every DreamWorks movie up to this point, and not a single one of them has managed to make me laugh as much as this one did. Yes, not even Shrek, believe it or not. But it's because this movie was clever, it was witty, and its dialogue and its humor was all top notch. They were all so good, and it was so underappreciated back then. Thirdly is the voice acting, which is integral to any animated project to bring personality and life to the characters in the story. And this is yet another strength of the movie, as the voice acting all across the board is superb. Especially Will Ferrell, who was perfect as MegaMind and owns every scene he's in flawlessly, whether it's supposed to be funny or emotional. Like, that man can act. Fourthly is the soundtrack, which is also great here, from the excellent composed original music to the pop songs chosen, all fit the film perfectly, even with the constant tone switching that I'll get to when we get to the flaws. And finally, there's the most important part of any animated movie, the animation itself, which is great here. Yes, its style is reminiscent of other DreamWorks movies, especially the human characters, which will look very familiar to those who have seen so many of these movies back to back to back. But still, fluid, high budget, wacky, expressive, detailed, colorful, lively, and very, very energized. They really did a fantastic job with the animation, and the effort shows in pretty much every single scene. Like, the animation in this movie, it's not like the greatest animation of the 2000s or anything like that, no, but it is great animation. Yeah, like I said, a little snack. So please excuse me. So, with all this praise I have for the film, is there really anything worth complaining about? Well, just a few little minor issues that do hamper the experience just a small little bit. Like, by small, I mean like really small, like this much. It barely hampers it at all. It's just stuff that's noticeable. What is it? The actual antagonist of the movie is forgettable. Titan. He's a very, very forgettable antagonist, and he has little to no actual character worth caring about. And he's the one character in the movie that I just roll my eyes at every time he's on screen. But he's not in the movie that much, and he doesn't try to, like, take over the movie until, like, the last act, so it's not as bad, and I'm willing to give it a little bit of leeway. Not to mention, Incredibles 2 did suffer from the same problem. The second act is really slow. It definitely takes its time with really hammering in how much MegaMind finds himself changing now that Metro Man's gone. He's defeated his greatest nemesis. He's got everything he's ever wanted. And yet he still feels like he's missing something. He's missing a purpose, and his quest in this movie is to find that purpose again. The third act, while pretty fun, definitely feels a bit rushed. Like, it's a really fun final act, but it does feel like it was a bit rushed for time. Like, I feel like they could have put maybe about 2, maybe 3 more minutes in there to get that perfect runtime. But outside of that, it is still a really fun final act. And don't worry, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just going to say it's a lot of fun. Where is it? The tone switching between emotional and funny, while well done, does cause a bit of whiplash. Like, movies like this, when they're able to balance being both emotional and super, super funny, I mean, you're gonna get whiplash. Even if you, like, transition to it in the most perfect way possible, it's still whiplash, because in one scene you'll be laughing your head off, and the other time you'll be feeling your heart tear itself apart inside your chest. I apologize for that horrifying visual, but that's kind of the easiest way I can try to describe it. And as well done as it is, there's still whiplash, and it's still going to leave your emotions a little bit flip-floppy. It's weird. You'll understand what I mean when you watch it for yourself, but the tone switching does cause weird whiplash. And a few lines at times are pretty hit or miss. Like, just a few little lines here and there, maybe between, like, big, long sections of dialogue. There's just that one line where you're just like, maybe that one could have been cut out. But it happens very rarely throughout this entire movie. Overall, though, if I didn't make it clear, I absolutely love this film. It's sharp, it's smart, it's self-aware, it's wickedly funny, it's emotional, it's an absolute blast from start to finish, and it's just a lot of fun to watch. Even after all these years, it remains one of the best DreamWorks Animation's entire catalog, and still holds up very well even in this newer superhero movie-dominated landscape of modern cinema. Which might also be why this movie is suddenly rising back up in popularity, because of all the really, really bad comic book movies that have been coming out in the past few years. So, I'm not sure what else I can really say. It's a great film. If you haven't seen it yet, absolutely you need to go see it. And literally by any means necessary. Whether you're just renting it or you buy the physical DVD like I do, because support physical media, it's better, fight me. You need to see this movie if you haven't already. And if you have seen it, watch it again and just remember all the greatness of it. So, my final verdict for the original MegaMind is going to be an easy, high 9 out of 10. It remains one of DreamWorks' best. It is a great original comic book movie. And if you haven't seen it yet, you absolutely need to. Highly, highly recommended. Well, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this almost every single day. And, now we gotta talk about the other one. Oh, boy. Well, see you next time for you know what. And just so you're aware, I will not hold back my rage. Don't be surprised if I put 14 plus on the next one's review. Because trying to get through this movie without cursing and anger is impossible. So, I just showed you the greatness of the original MegaMind. Join me next time when I show you how exactly you can horrendously fuck it up. Bye.